First of all, good evening, Mr. Chairman. Felt nice to see Harrow and Hillingdon members, and it's more nice also to see all the visitors that have arrived to listen tonight. This night's lecture is really being dedicated to Sandy Shawcross, who sadly left us a week or two ago, who helped me get my book through to publishing stage while I was supposedly terminally ill in hospital. But sadly, Sandy is gone. So tonight, Sandy, this is for you as well. This is a presentation which I'll be giving is an engineer's approach to the forces responsible for tectonic, orogenic, and subduction processes. It's been a long fight, and I have to go through some of this, and I hope you won't sort of get up and walk away. It's a few pages of mathematics, but when that's over, the ramifications are quite substantial. So we'll start now. It all started, and by the way, just before we start, to understand something, you must be able to measure it. This is my variation on a statement made by James Harrington. And as an engineer, this is my mantra, what I live by. So we'll start the show. It started in 2001. I was in Bolivia on a fossil and collecting tour. And I was absolutely gobsmacked that at 5 kilometers above sea level, there were undisturbed sedimentary beds. So it must have been 2 kilometers below sea level when they were at that stage. For lifting it up to 7 kilometers all told, the first thing through my mind that came was, what the hell, the size of a forklift truck that could lift all this plus the Salar de Uyuni, an inland sea, right up to the top of the Andes. And from then on, this became an obsession for me to work out the forces that could lift a half a continent out from the sea and put it up to 5,000 meters. I had to then look at, from being just a fossil and mineral collector, I had to study geology, being in a hurry, and of course you come across Hess. There is no consensus regarding where the currents, so they flow in packets clockwise and anti-clockwise. Do they just stay in the upper mantle, or do they start at the core? No one's to know. Also, if we look at the introduction of plumes, we know they are there. Magma comes up from the bottom and it's credited with enormous forces, but it doesn't. It's no different to what you've got at the mid-Atlantic ridge or mid-ocean ridge. But what's fascinating for us here tonight is during the Jurassic, South America was tucked beautifully into what at that stage, Africa, Pangaea was already breaking up. Australia had already left and gone east. When India was breaking away and going east, we fought AWOL and smacked into the Himalayas. And here we are asked to see that this continent, South America, is being pushed apart by this anti-clockwise convection, while this one stays relatively stationary. So we're asking for what forces will actually move the whole of this continent for 140 million years without stopping, without hesitating, and how does it work along the whole of the side of this continent, some 6,000 kilometers long? I just can't work it out because the convection currents difficulty set that convection currents will not commingle. Anybody who washes their spoon after supper in hot water soon finds that the heat arrives at the handle end that you're holding. It's no way could these convection currents remain independent over this period of time. So I've got hold of a map of the world, and there the main ridges are running north, or the main ridges are running north-south. A few are running, convergence are running also north-south, and all the divergence, all the pulling apart is on the circumference. This told me immediately that the forces which have to be constant to give you a constant movement, the only power source I could think of was the rotational speed of the Earth. That stays the most likely place from where you will actually get the power to move continents around the Earth. It's constant. We know what it is. And let's see what actually happens when we look at it. The first thing you notice when you look at the planet it's inclined, and it's noticed that it wobbles. People have written into me laughing, saying, you've hit the nail on the head when you say it wobbles. But being an engineer, when something's inclined and rotating, is the first thing you say it's unbalanced. And the question then arises, are the stresses induced on the surface sufficient to move the crust all around the planet from one side to the other? So this part of the lecture is new to all of you, excepting those who heard part of the 2019 talk. Now, planet does wobble. Here's the Milankovitch cycles, the eccentricity from 100,000 years from circular to elliptical, the obliquity from 2 degrees to 24 over a 41,000 period. Remember, this is all, and of course, the precession 23,000. On top of that, we got the Chandler wobble and a little nutation. So the Earth is subjected to shake, rattle, and roll. Of that, there can be no answer, but it is being rotated. There is a shaft that for turbines I used to make, blades would go on that, and the minute it was inclined, it would be, you'd wear the bearings from round to oval. Luckily, I was able to find this fantastic animation, and they've got these little transducers around it, and they can measure the amount of vibration from the middle to the outer side. It is mimicking the Milankovitch cycles. And this was very important to me because it told me that the Earth movement and the unbalanced rotor mimic each other. That's a machine I used to have, similar one. You stick a transducer near the rotors and you'd rotate it with the power and you'd actually see this curve. And you cut away and balance by removing metal until you got a dead straight line and you knew you were then running in a balanced situation. You are more familiar with when you get a new tire on your wheel, this thing also shakes, rattles, and rolls, puts on the machine, has a computer which senses all these movements and puts on some balance weights here on the rim, 20 grams, 5 grams, but it's enough to go from a smooth ride, from a rough ride to a smooth ride. The housewife will notice it somewhat differently. She will have, in the 60s, she will have put washing in the spin dryer, but did not put it nice and evenly round. The spin driver would walk across the kitchen floor. Oh my God, the Daleks have taken over, and switch off quickly because you had to balance the washing. So we understand vibration from these little examples. The wagon wheel, go west, young man, in the days of the California gold rush, they would fly apart and they had to put a steel band around it, which they called the hoop. And to this very day, we refer to this as the hoop stress. And all the machine rotating machinery has to calculate that if it goes a wee bit unbalanced like a ball mill, it will not break apart. So we've kept the name hoop stress. And this is really what this is about. Is the hoop stress of the Earth sufficient just to allow the crust to move, but not break in half? There's the bigger animation, and there is the Earth is being rotated. Now, don't know why, but there's this, amongst the geological fraternity, there is an understanding that the Earth is rotating and all the planets from the cloud of dust that surrounded the sun at the beginning of the formation of our galaxy. But they've never given an explanation for that, and it's just automatically done that. And this didn't seem right to me, working with fluid mechanics all my life. I can understand the conservation momentum. I just can't understand how you keep it running the way you do in regulating it. So is the sun actually regulating the speed of the Earth and its behavior? Because depending on that, depends on whether I can model it mathematically. So in this stage, I looked at the other orbiting planets to determine if they rotated in a similar manner to Earth, to essentially show that planet Earth is not a special case. A gravitational crank, exactly like railway, there it is offset. As every half turn, clunk, woof, it'll move it, woof, it'll move it. It's moving all of these planets together. This wobbles itself. So we are now looking at where the rotation is coming from. I'm getting somewhere. It was during the study I came across Kepler's laws of orbital motion. I didn't know about Kepler before. I had no reason to study him. He was a fantastic mathematician in 1640, circa 1645. He published his papers on planetary motion, on motion of the planets around the sun. 700 years near enough, and he calculated all the areas, and he showed that the planet Earth must go faster as it comes around the sun. I like watching in this cartoon. It goes around, and then he plotted all this out all this time ago, and he showed that the planet travels faster when close to the sun and slow when furthest. Kepler's name is still running today. The Kepler telescope, Kepler software, Kepler this, Kepler this. He stood the test of time, but the big breakthrough came. The big breakthrough came when I found this work by Caltech. Here is absolutely the speed variations of the Earth's elliptical orbit by Caltech. Between April and October, on the outward journey from the perihelion to the aphelion, the sun twists the Earth at approximately 1 degree per day to keep it facing the sun correctly. The sun is controlling turning the Earth, and on its outward journey between October and April, it twists it the other way. That's always facing the sun. There is the little diagram. This was fantastic. It shows that the gravitational speed of the Earth is controlled rigorously by the sun. It's not just something which came out of a cloud some 4.3 billion years away. No one's ever corrected me on this one. And it was on this premise that this point that the mathematical modeling of the Earth as an unbalanced rotating body was given credibility. Up to this moment, my theories were continuously turned down for publication on the premise the arguments are flawed. The reason given was the conviction that planets are all freely rotating about the center of mass with zero torque moments. Mr. Geologist of the GA and the GEOXOC, Mr. Kepler, circa 1645, told me otherwise.